Yumper and Svo at the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And Justin Svo Svoboda.
From the prime time, bitch!
Two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Welcome everyone to episode 4 of season 3 of Yumper and Svo at the Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Justin Svo Svoboda. Mr. Svoboda, we're finally back.
Yumper, it's good to see you again. We had a moment over the weekend where I didn't realize it was you. It was just some dude in a big Bigfoot Sasquatch costume, and I didn't realize it was my podcast partner. It's good to see you, Yump.
Yes, I was fucking hot in that son of a bitch.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The mask was actually the hottest part. The bodysuit really wasn't. But I figured I'd just go all out for Halloween for once.
I love it. I love it.
All right, man. How have you been, though, my man? I know you've been busy. I know you're looking great. You're cutting all this weight. How you been doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Watching movies, watching college football. I'm doing my thing with Luke. I try to prank call our guest tonight at least once a day. Yeah, things are good.
Awesome, my man.
How about you?
I'm good, man. Today is October 31st, Halloween, which is both of our favorite holiday.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that it is the end of October because I don't have to make another video for tomorrow.
So I want to talk about that real quick. And I was going to save this for the closing note, but I got some other stuff that I would do for Svo's closing thought. But shout out to you, Yump, for 31 Days of Horror Movies. That's 62 videos in 2 years, right? Because you did this all last year. And you did it all this year with all new content. Like, you didn't rehash or recycle or anything. And the videos came out amazing. So thank you for all the content you're putting out, and the videos, they're amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for everybody that watched and hollered at me in the DMs and tweeted at me how they liked them. Really appreciate it. If I piqued your interest in it, that's what my goal was accomplished then. 62 in a row? No,
in a row? Hey, try not to make any videos on the way to the parking lot, Yump.
My girlfriend... No, I can't. We can't go in there. But let's get right into it, my friend. Today, we have a special guest, which I'm probably just going to bring on now.
We love him. Might as well.
Because we love him. But how about you introduce him for us?
So you guys know him as the Hot Dog King. I know him as Fuckface. But welcome to the 3-time Yumper and Svo guest star, Matt Burleycat Nominson. Welcome, Matt.
Hello, boys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Always good to have you, now. Always good to have you, my friend. So we're here to talk about your favorite subject, a subject that we have argued about in person. Friday the 13th, the series, man. This is like right up your alley. This is prime knowledge here of movies in terms of horror.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say prime knowledge. That prime knowledge and nom don't go together very well, but I'll do what I can.
Awesome, my friend. Before we get started, guys, I just want to give a shout out to CPG, Comic Punk Guy, who actually made us a badass logo. If you see in the corner, it's actually a camp logo, but it's Camp Blood. It's actually pretty cool. We'll retweet it on our channel, our Twitter channel, or what it's called, X now. I don't know what the fuck. We'll tweet it there or repost it or whatever, and check it out. Give him some props. He did an awesome job. He actually did that today, which I thought was crazy. But guys, let's get into our first segment of what we've been watching. So, Mr. Svoboda, what have you been watching this week?
So I saw 2 movies. One, I'm glad that I did not go to the movie theater to watch, and one was a fantastic experience in the movie theater. The first movie was Five Nights at Freddy's, and that movie was ass cheeks. That movie was not good. I was very, very excited to see it. Actually, I've been talking with Nam about it for like the last couple months because the trailers made it look really cool. The premise is really cool. Now, I played the game, and I know you played the game too, Yump. And I've heard that the movie is really, really good fan services to fans of the video game. But as a horror movie, as a thriller, it was not a fun watch at all. Matthew Lillard was good in it, but he's kind of cool and eccentric in everything that he does.
Summer Catch.
Summer Catch, yeah, absolutely. But Stu Macher and Scream and Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies. And then they had Josh. What's Josh's last name?
Brolin?
No, not Josh Brolin. He was in the Hunger Games. Hutcherson? Is that his name?
Oh man, I haven't seen the Hunger Games since they first came out.
And he
Hutcherson.
He had like this love interest that looked exactly like fucking Jennifer Lawrence. It was almost like they were trying to cash in on the Hunger Games because those two were both in it together. And it just went in so many places. It wasn't my favorite. And then the second movie I saw was the new Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. And it's 3 hours and 34 minutes. So it's long, but it is a good watch. It is a hard watch. And I know Yump and I have had some conversations about, we're worried about that they were going to make Leonardo DiCaprio out to be, someone that was misunderstood. Martin Scorsese doesn't pull any punches. Like, Leonardo DiCaprio's character is a fucking asshole, terrible human being. Robert De Niro is even worse. The real, like, the victims of this story and the people that we should be talking about more were the Osage tribe in Oklahoma. And it was a really, really, really well done movie. It's long, but it's a good watch. It will be on Apple TV Plus in the next 3 weeks from what I'm reading. How about you? What have you been watching? Do you have thoughts on what I watched?
So Five Nights at Freddy's, I actually played a little bit of the first game. It was a little bit past my time in terms of me being older to play it. My son talks about it constantly. I've seen videos on it, so I kind of get the concept of it. I haven't seen the movie, but I did see Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage, and that wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either. So after you told me that Five Nights at Freddy's was bad, I'll probably go into it looking pretty sure it's going to be bad, and I'll report back on that one. Killers of the Flower Moon, my brother actually gave a glowing review of it like you. He also told me that it's one of those films that it has very good pacing. You don't know it. It's a 3.5 hour long movie, but you don't know it's that long. He also told me that it's a movie that he personally could only probably watch once or twice. It's not due to the content and the subject matter of it. It's kind of hard watch. But he said it was very, very good. And then we had our talks about Oppenheimer and this one, and like which one did he think was better, and that's a whole other thing we can go into when Oscar season runs around. But I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I haven't had time to, but if it's coming out on Apple TV, I might actually just stay and see if I can just watch it that way.
I mean, it's a nice way to like watch a movie because you can get up, you can use the bathroom and pause it and not miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's an Apple TV Plus along with the new Ridley Scott movie. Napoleon is another Apple TV Plus movie, so you should be able to watch that in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Walking Phoenix, right? So
yeah.
So for me, I stood in the Halloween mode. My wife has never seen Child's Play. She's seen the character of Chucky. She's never watched the movies, actually, which is kind of funny because she dressed up as Chucky for Halloween. But before that, she wanted to watch the first one, which I think is the best one. And that one's directed by Tom Holland, who also did Fright Night. And he uses the same guy, Chris Sarandon, as detective in the movie. And of course, Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray. Such a classic. It's filmed here in Chicago. I love that movie. It's Chucky in Spanish, though, is better in terms of when he yells at her by the fireplace. But all around classic. It's just it's one of my favorites. And then we followed that up with the sequel, which is not as great as the first one, but it's still enjoyable. She enjoyed the first two. So she's talking about watching the third one next. So we'll see how that goes.
See, I don't think the third one's bad. I think it's when you start getting like Seed of Chucky and Bride of Chucky, where they just take a whole nother turn. Still fun to watch, but like,
yeah, I think they just they didn't take themselves seriously for those movies, which is totally fine. Because I wasn't one of the I can't remember if it's Seed or Bride. I think it's Seed is when they have like a person that looks like Britney Spears, and they had to actually put on the trailers Britney Spears is not in this movie.
This is not Britney Spears. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about like the original Child's Play is when Charles Lee, what is it, Charles Lee
Ray
is trying to like put his soul from the devil back into another human body, and they have the weird "Oh, you bum seed," like the whole chant. Like it's just good stuff. It's good, fun '90s horror.
Yes, definitely. It's a classic, man. And like Brad Dourif, like I can praise Brad Dourif like for hours. The dude is phenomenal.
And it's got the mom from Seventh Heaven in it.
Yes, it does. What about you, Nam? What have you watched this week?
Not much of anything. We've been in the rewatch of the Friday the 13th. So we got through part 4 the other night. I think we fell asleep towards the end. But besides that, we've had the baseball playoffs on, so I haven't really been catching up on anything.
Yeah, it's I've read that it's the lowest viewership, but I think that's all bullshit. It's the most competitive thing. You know, that's why baseball is great. People can just the teams you think are going to win do not win, and you know it's random. It's a crapshoot, which I love the fact about baseball. It's not always set in stone.
I actually did watch Old Dads this week.
With
Bill Burr and Bokeem Woodbine. It's on Netflix. It was actually pretty funny. Yeah.
The man named Baloney says, "Happy Halloween, you wieners."
Baloney.
Happy Halloween, my friend. But yeah, I feel you about the playoffs. I kind of been wanting to get into. I just haven't had time to do pretty much anything.
It's also 10-0 Rangers right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who you guys pulling for?
I don't care. Like, I don't mind either of these teams. Like, if the Rangers win it, cool. If the Diamondbacks win it, like, even better. But I don't really care.
Kind of hoping the Rangers win.
So
yeah, I'm hoping Texas wins just to get their first one.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool. But let's get into our subject matter, gentlemen. Are you guys ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So as we said, we're gonna go through all the Friday the 13th movies, excluding Freddy versus Jason, because that was already gone over in 2 of our podcasts, and I don't really consider it in the anthology of Friday the 13th. These are all standalone movies we're going with. So with that, my friends, let's get into our first movie.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
Friday the 13th, released in 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, who also directed A Stranger is Watching and Spring Break. Written by Victor Miller, who wrote a ton of books on Kojak, which I thought was hilarious. Starring Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Janine Taylor, and the great Kevin Ham, a.k.a. Kevin Bacon. Budget of $500,000, and this movie made $59 million worldwide, which is ridiculously crazy. So, Swole, tell me about the first Friday the 13th.
I mean, the first Friday the 13th is it's iconic, right? Like, it came out directly after the 1978 Halloween, and people were just trying to cash in on the slasher genre, but this one was done really, really well, and it was a cool story. It was low budget, but it's fun to watch. The story is great, and it sticks with, you know, the traditional horror themes, like the counselors that have sex, you know they're going to get killed, right? And I think Jason became iconic. I know he's not in the first one. I know, like, I know that part, but like this spawned one of the big 3 horror icons, and it's an absolutely elite horror movie.
Yeah. What about you, Nam?
So I agree. I think that what I like about this is when you look at Jason's mom, you think to yourself, like, there's no way this old lady's out there killing these people, you know? But if you put yourself in her shoes, where she thinks that the camp counselors are at fault for the drowning death of her kid, like, I mean, all bets are off, you know? Something flipped in her head, and she's going after people, and I don't know. I just think, like, for me, I kind of like the beginning. You know, it gives you a good story as to, like, what happened and why it's going down like this.
So for this one, I think Betsy Palmer kind of steals the show in this as Jason's mom. This movie, to me, like, rewatching it, had really, like, bad pacing in terms of like there was parts where it would have a kill and then randomly it would have like one of the characters making coffee. Like what the fuck? But I understand why, because this is the first of its kind in terms of this series. But this movie has a lot of Halloween actually roots in it. The movie was actually ripped off from Halloween by the writer of Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham. Sean Cunningham was doing a lot of kid stuff. And he needs to make some money. He said, "Let's do a horror film. Let's rip off Halloween." And that's what they did. One of the things that I think is iconic in this film is the music by Harry Manfredi, who did the which is continuously used today. I mean, we recognize that with the Friday the 13th series. I would say this one is probably in the lower tier, but it's a good first start. I do think Betsy Palmer kicks ass in this, and she was my favorite part in the movie. One fucked up thing I read about this while researching this is the snake that they kill in this movie. They actually really killed it, and it's not messed up that they killed a snake. Well, it is kind of they messed up to kill the snake, but the fact is that was actually somebody's pet. The handler came on set, Tom Savini, who I love, and the director were like, "Oh, we're gonna take it." They didn't tell him what they're gonna do. They chopped the damn thing up on set, and like the guy was mortified that you killed his pet snake for this movie, which I think is really kind of fucked up that they really did that.
Very fucked up.
Yeah. And then a shout out to Ari Lehman, who plays Jason at the end, that comes out and gets her from the boat. He's a Chicago boy.
That scene is like fucking iconic.
Yeah.
Like it's daytime and like she thinks everything's over and it's just iconic.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think Betsy Palmer, like just the clip I used for her when she's talking between Jason and herself is just creepy. Like you said, Nam, she plays a person you wouldn't think would be killing people. And even when the people see her, like when you go back and you watch it and like, you know, it's her, when they see her, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing out here?" Like she seems like a nice lady, like, but she just went ape shit because they opened up the camp again.
Yeah, it worked because like it was believable, like this sweeter old lady, like you said, and then the flip side totally worked too because you could see it and you could buy into the reasoning, you know.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, she didn't want to do this movie. She was actually, like, her career is basically being on like game shows, like back in the early 50s and 60s, and she didn't want to do this movie, but her car broke down. And her agent called her with this script, and she read it, and she's like, "This is shitty, but they're gonna pay me $10,000. I need to buy this new Volkswagen." So she's like, "Okay, I'll do it for the Volkswagen."
This is
And now
shitty. Let's do it.
yeah, and now she embraces like the fact that this prolonged her career, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, so that's Friday the 13th, the first one, gentlemen. Ready to get into the next one?
Let's do it.
But I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there. Some sort of demented creature. Surviving in the wilderness. Full grown by now. Stalking. Stealing what he needs. Living off wild animals and vegetation.
Friday the 13th Part 2, released in 1981, directed again by Steve Miner, who directed Warlock, which is one of my guilty pleasures. He directed Friday the 13th Part 3, and he's also a Chicago boy, so shout out to him. Starring Betsy Miller reprising her role, Amy Steele, John Frouet, and Steve Dash as Jason. He's the first Jason, adult Jason, that is. It had a budget of $1.2 million and a box office of $21 million. So, Nam, tell me about Friday the 13th Part 2.
So this one was set, 5 years after Part 1, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So my first question is, that head really, how did it hold up so well in the little shed in the middle of the woods, man? That was in really good condition.
It's good at fixing stuff for decomposing, man.
Yeah, it didn't take long for me to think, like, at what point are people going to not push the envelope by setting up shop anywhere near Camp Crystal Lake? I thought of that right away.
How are local government officials issuing the permits to open up these camps?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know it's supposed to be like that, but that was one of the first things. I was like, I know, like at that age, you know, they're all teens or early 20s and they're going out to do their drugs and sex and all that. And you don't really care where, but like, I don't know. I'd probably go a couple forests over if I was looking to go do that in the woods anywhere other than Camp Crystal Lake.
See, that's where I kind of push back a little bit because thinking of, in Midlothian, Bachelor's Grove, during today's Halloween,
It's
it's
true.
snowing outside. But I'm saying like there's like you get like $500 to $1,000 tickets now just even being on that property at this time because people just keep fucking going back there and people think all these horrible things happen there, but yet they keep going back there. So I can see why they kind of did this in this movie going back to that place. Difference is they're setting up actually another camp here, right? Another camp counseling here for this movie.
Yeah.
But I can see that's why they did it. This movie, I think, is a step above the first one in terms of just carrying a story. I think there's a lot of similarities between the two. It's kind of rinse and repeat between the two movies. I actually like this movie because Jason actually makes his appearance, but without the hockey mask, though. He has a burlap sack around his head. One of the things that I found interesting was that this movie had to cut a lot of the kill footage in it due to avoiding a X rating. And the more and more we watch these movies, Friday the 13th actually has some of the best kills in terms of horror movies that I've seen. And a lot of that has to do with Savini. Even though Savini wasn't on this one, but a lot of his, special effects have influenced that. And I think that's pretty cool. Swell?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that. Like Nam said, it takes place in her apartment, and she opens up the fridge, and the fucking head's there, and I think that this movie is a little bit better written, and it had a little bit bigger of a budget, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think like the Jason in the burlap sack fucking scares me. It was so corny and it was so cheesy now, but like at the time you're like, oh shit, that's Jason, and you don't realize it. It's kind of like what they talked about in Scream, right? When they're like,
Mm-hmm.
who's the killer in Friday the 13th? And she's like, Jason. No, you dumb bitch. If you watched it, you would know Pamela was the killer in the Friday the 13th. It's good. Like they're like the first 3 or 4 of these movies are just, I think, are fun to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of crazy though, like reading about this. So they wanted to have Adrienne King come back from her previous role because she woke up from a dream in the hospital. They wanted to have her going through like PTSD with this movie, but she had a horrible experience after the first movie, not from the set or anybody. She had a stalker that literally like broke into her house and basically it got to the point where he put a gun to her head and she talked him out of it to him get arrested, but that like it really traumatized her. So when this movie was coming out, she asked if her role can be a little limited. She didn't know if she was gonna get killed like she did in the first 5 minutes. I'm sorry I spoiled the movie. It's 30 years old, but like she didn't know she was gonna get killed, but like the fact that she had to bow out because of that is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy fans out there, man. But I like this movie. It's definitely, I will actually put this one above the first one in terms of like viewership. I think it's a little bit better written. But I think like all the movies have kind of like the same thing going for it in terms of they have a rinse and repeat kind of recipe to it, which is fine. The great Roger Ebert said he did a print review for this movie. It's the only print review he ever did for any Friday the 13th movie. He gave it 0.5 star out of 4. And in the review, he finished saying, "This review will suffice for the Friday the 13th movie of your choice." Which I don't agree with, but it's pretty funny he said that. He actually goes to see another one later on in the series on his own merit with his own money, and he goes ape shit, which is hilarious. But yeah, I kind of like this movie. But let's get into our next one, gentlemen.
God damn it, Shirley. Why do you always have to be such an asshole? I beg your pardon. I'm not an asshole. I'm an actor. Same thing.
Friday the 13th Part 3, directed by Steve Milner again, starring Dana Kimmel, Tracy Savage, and Richard Broker this time as Jason. And we had a box office of $36 million on a budget of $2.3 million. Now, tell me about Friday the 13th Part 3.
So this is the one that's the clip where you got the heavyset kid with the curly hair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's probably my least favorite person in any of these movies. Like something about this dude, because we rewatched this one somewhat recently, and I was just like, I can't handle this guy. Like, you know, the backstory of stuff that's going on, and just the 2 pranks that he pulled, the way he jumps out and tries to scare people and all that. I was like, this kid's got to go, man. And spoiler alert, eventually he does. But what I like about this is where he gets the hockey mask as well.
Yes.
And for me, that's like one of my favorite parts. Like, that's what really draws me. For whatever reason, I just like the hockey mask better than like a Michael Myers or Freddy. Like, I know everybody falls in different categories, but that's like, I just think that looks more fierce and like ready to kick some ass than any of the other guys.
Yeah, that's an iconic look. Funny part about this movie is it was shot in 3D, so they were trying to prolong the series with the whole 3D. It's the first movie that was put out for that studio in 22 years, besides Ulysses, which was the last one. This movie, nobody mentions Jason by name. It's the only movie in the series nobody ever mentions his name, which I thought was pretty crazy. And the hockey mask, so many people take credit for it, from the director to actors to stunt people. So nobody really knows the true story about it. But yeah, I totally hate that guy too, Nam. And the fact that he gets killed and they don't believe he's dead, which I thought was hilarious. Even though like the timing of him having his throat slit and then miraculously appearing like 20 minutes later alive while still dying made no sense. But I was glad he kind of got offed. And Jason gets his mask from that fucking guy.
Yeah.
Is it not the first appearance of the machete?
Yes. It's the
Like,
first
right, like, because that's what Jason becomes known for, and like it's the first appearance of the machete. But there are some fucking other cool kills in here with the spear gun.
Mhm.
So
man, yeah.
there is some cool stuff in this movie. Like, the 3D stuff is just whatever.
Yeah, it was a way the Paramount was trying to prolong. And to be honest with you, all the movies we're going to go through, they all made money. Like, Friday the 13th was a profitable franchise, which I thought was crazy. Because, like I said, they all kind of had the same recipe, but everybody keeps going to see them, which is crazy. Richard Broker, who was a stuntman, is some people's one of their favorites for Jason, which I thought was pretty interesting. We all have our own favorite, but he's on a lot of people's high list of who played the character of Jason. This movie actually inspired a Weird Al song called "Nature Trail to Hell" in 3D. If you ever heard that song, it's basically about people who go on a trail and die by a serial killer, and he sings about it in like kind of like a campy, happy song, which I think is pretty hilarious. But this movie inspired that. To me, it's just it was blah, but it wasn't horrible. I do like the fact that we have more of the lore of the character being built up more in terms of the machete, the mask, but this one's probably not one of my favorites in terms of this series.
There's also what did you say the name of that was? The Weird Al song?
It's called Nature Trail to Hell.
There's also the dude, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show The League.
Yeah.
But he wrote an album called Wolfie Sings, and it's like a concept album about fucking Friday the 13th.
Is it Rami?
Yeah.
Or is it
no, I forgot who it is. It's Taco.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a concept album about Friday the 13th. And it's hilarious because it's like a real like indie rock album.
That's pretty funny.
Also, I don't know have you ever seen it, Yump? Because we won't spend too much time in it. But have you ever seen the fan movie? What is it, like? Blood in the Snow, or I forgot what it was called. But it's a YouTube like half hour. It's called Never Hike Alone. Never Hike Alone. It's a sequel. It's a fan made sequel to Friday the 13th. Check them out.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. An hour.
Yeah.
Womp Stomp Films. Check them out. I will check that out actually tonight before I go to sleep. The fan Robert De Niro. No, nobody likes that fucking movie except you and Beefloaf.
I fucking love that movie.
I hate that fucking movie.
Bobby Rayburn. Hey, Bobby!
So stupid. It's like, I don't know. All right, let's get to our next one.
Let's go. Let's get to part 4.
Often during extreme duress, people are capable of extraordinary behavior. That's what happened when your brother violently attacked the killer. At that moment, it was perfectly normal for him to act to protect himself. he's going to be just fine.
Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter, released in 1984. So we have 4 consecutive movies in a row in the 80s, which is pretty crazy. This movie was directed by Joseph Zito, who also directed The Prowler, Invasion USA with Chuck Norris, Red Scorpion with Dolph Lundgren, and Missing in Action with Chuck Norris. So a big action guy. This movie stars Eric Anderson, Judy Arson, the great Crispin Glover, who does a great fucking dance in this movie.
He does.
Lawrence Mottenson, Corey Feldman, and Ted White, which is some people's favorite Jason, as Jason. The movie had a budget of $2.6 million and a box office of $32.9 million. Now, tell me about Friday the 13th 4.
This is the first time I'm hearing some of these numbers on the box office, and no wonder they have about 100 of these movies. Just keep churning them out and making $30 million, you know. Tommy Jarvis, Corey Feldman, I think. That's the introduction to the character. He steals the show at the end in my eyes. Like, he goes a little crazy, cutting all the hair off and going after him in this one. And I'd say that's what stands out most to me, is that character and the introduction of him.
Yeah. So this film actually contained the most nudity.
It's the sex party. The
And
teens have
gore.
a sex party.
Yeah, and gore of all of in the franchise, I thought was hilarious. Corey Feldman was good in this movie. I really like Ted White as Jason. I think he's more menacing than Richard Broker, which I thought Richard Broker did well. Actually, I didn't mind this one. This is a way to they kind of knew that the series is kind of coming to its end. They wanted to have a way to kind of put closure on it. The studio did. One of the creators wanted to have a way to branch off into new things, so they had this movie made, with also keeping that caveat of having it possibly continuing with the Corey Feldman character. But I actually don't mind this one. I thought it was pretty decent. What about you, Swole?
I like this one too. I like that it all takes place in like a central location, basically like the house while they're out like doing their thing. The Crispin Glover dance is fucking fantastic. And when he impales the girl from the raft is one of my favorite kills in a movie. But yeah, like I think a lot of people think too much about these movies. They're bad. They're not good at all, but they're fucking fun to watch, right? You have your boys come over, like you're 12, 13 years old. Like you have your boys come over, you're like, oh, dude, let's watch Friday the 13th. Like you feel like you're doing something you're not supposed to, but like it's cool, right? Like that's what's great about these movies. That's what was great about the Halloween movies for a while. And that's what was cool about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And that's why those are the big 3 of horror movies. But I felt this was one that like you saw the cover of the VHS tape, like when you're at the video store and you're like, I got to rent this.
Yes. Just for and you know what too, like Brian brought up this. Are we going to discuss the NES game? So in the NES game, this mask is actually on the cover of that game, and that's one of the reasons why I rented it, even though it was a horrible game, because Jason is in purple pajamas, and you fight him like you're in Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
The fucking music in that video game though is so good.
Yeah, which makes no sense. But that's kind of like the cover art for some of these movies is one thing that draws you in. That could be any horror movie, but I think like the Friday the 13th series was always one that drew me in as a kid. Like, oh shit, because the hockey mask with the blood. This one, like I said, had the most nudity and gore in it. They wanted to finish off the series with this one. They unfortunately didn't. This is actually the last movie in the series that picks up after the previous film left off. We get a lot of continuity errors after this. And due to budget, like this film had a lower budget. Some of the actors were uncomfortable performing their own stunts, but yet they had to, which I think is pretty crazy in a horror movie where people are getting killed. But yeah, man, it's just it's crazy. And to go back to Crispin Glover's dance, he said he danced that way at clubs. That got him a lot of women. So I don't know.
Whatever works.
It's if you guys have not seen his dance, look up Crispin Glover Friday the 13th dance. It's like fucking the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen a human do. It's just so stupid. And they said that when they filmed it, the actors couldn't keep straight faces for a couple of takes because they're like, "What the hell is he doing?" But he did it.
He's such a weirdo.
Oh, he's extremely weird. There. At some point, yells at Jason, "Hey, you get your damn hands
off her."
Yeah, there's a part where he's screaming for the cork. He's like, "Where's the cork? Screw her!" And then he gets killed by it, which I thought was great. But yeah, check out this one if you haven't. Let's go into our next one, gentlemen.
I know who it is.
What?
I said I know who it is.
Who?
It's Jason Voorhees.
Jason Voorhees? You're out of your fucking mind. You've been out in the sun too long. Jason Voorhees is dead.
Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, released in 1985. This one was directed by Danny Steinman, who did The Unseen, starring Melanie Kinnaman, John Shepard, and Anthony Barrell. This movie does not have a Jason in it, the traditional sense of a Jason. This movie had a budget of $2 million and made $21 million at the box office. So I'm going to start off with this one. Yes, CPG, I did give them real big props for the cover art, but I remember seeing this as a kid and I thought it was fucking horrible. The poster for this movie is bad. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to drop a kind of I guess, hot take, as we say. Rewatching this movie, and after all the shit I gave Beatloaf for Halloween Ends, I think Halloween Ends was trying to copy this movie, and I think it did a shitty job. I still like this movie better than Halloween Ends. It's the same kind of concept and story, if you think about it, with Tommy basically progressing into that character. This was better. This to me is better than Halloween Ends, and in some people, it's probably in my top 3 of Friday the 13th, to be honest with you, which has surprised me. I really like it. Deborah Voorhees, who's actually a character in this movie, is really named Deborah Voorhees, and she thinks it's hilarious that people freak out when she asks them about when people ask her about her last name, and she always tells them that Jason Voorhees is her husband, and it's a real bitch getting blood cleaned out of his clothes every day, which I thought was pretty funny. I like this movie. What do you think about this one now?
So I don't remember too much about this one. We just started it and fell asleep about 10 minutes in. So the poster, to get to that, for whatever reason, I'm drawing vibes of Casey Jones in the original Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Because not quite the same, but it's just, it's a pretty bad poster.
That's a bad mask.
Especially compared to the last one that was just up. That one was perfect. But I'm gonna have to dive back into this one because this one doesn't ring a bell very much at all.
What about you, Swole?
I think I never drew the comparisons to what is it, Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy and
Corey. From Halloween fucking Ends. Good Lord, it hurts to just say that name of that movie. But I never really put 2 and 2 together, and that makes a lot of good sense. Where it was a mental thing, and the mental hospital, and that's a really good comparison. I think the movie's good. I think it's decent. I don't love when I get what you're trying to do, but I don't love when you have an iconic character like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, and he's not actually part of the movie. That was my beef with fucking Halloween Ends, right?
But see, the thing is, though, I think the reason I gave this one a little more slack is because at Halloween Kills, there is no notion in that movie to say somebody's gonna take over. At least in the end of Friday the 13th Part 4, we kind of get that notion that he went apeshit when he killed him. A spoiler alert, I'm sorry, it's 30 years old, but when he kills him, he goes apeshit with the machete. And then he gives that look at the end to make you think that, something's wrong with him. And this kind of can give you make you think, maybe he can turn into something, because he obviously has PTSD because he's 17 years old now. He's having nightmares about him, which I think was nicely done in terms of continuing the story, which is just something that's not common in, horror movies that we grew up on, the continuation of a decent storyline.
Right.
And I think they try to do it here. That's the only caveat I'll give to this movie over Halloween Ends, because they didn't, Corey just came out of fucking nowhere.
I mean, it was cool when that kid fucking fell to his death, though. Like in the beginning of Halloween Ends, like he fell off the fucking thing. He was a little dickhead.
Yeah,
But that was like the only cool thing.
But it's kind of funny that Nam mentions Casey Jones from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we brought back to Halloween Ends where Michael Myers is living with Splinter in the sewer.
He is. He's in the sewer having fucking pizzas delivered.
Yes.
Oh my god, I hate that movie so much. Like, it's just so bad. But yeah, I mean, Nam, I definitely like recommend a rewatch of it. Well, you're gonna do your rewatches anyway of it, but I liked it a lot. I liked it better this time than I did the first time I saw it, which is kind of crazy. But gentlemen, let's get into our next film.
Shitheads couldn't even stick him back in right. Well, I ain't gonna touch the slimy sucker. Why'd I have to go and dig up Jason? Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
Friday the 13th, Part 7. Well, actually, Part 6, I'm sorry. Jason Lives, 1986, this was released in. Directed by Tom McLaughlin, One Dark Night, Date with an Angel, and Friday the 13th, the series, which is one thing we should do something in the future with as well. It hasn't really much to do with Jason, but I do like that series if you ever seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a Nightmare on Elm Street one that was very similar, like anthology, like.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Have you seen that, Nam? Friday the 13th, the series?
I have not.
Yeah, it's basically like a person. I know we're going off subject, but it's basically a guy has like a shop with all these objects, kind of like needful things that they collected over the years, and they go to different places where there's these paranormal things happening. Like one of them's this guy has a projector that he kills people in movies. Basically, he can put them in the movie where they'll die if they wronged him to get their money and inheritance. It's like stuff like that. It was a nice little series that came. They had one with a scarecrow that was like one of the first episodes. It's a nice little series that ran for like, I think like 3 years that I watched a lot as a kid. But this movie stars Tom Matthews, Jennifer Cook, David Kingan, and C.J. Graham as Jason. So Jason is back in this movie. The budget was $3 million. It had a box office of $19 million. So now tell me about Part 6.
Same thing I said earlier with the why are we setting up camp at Crystal Lake all the time? Why are we going to the cemetery and messing with this dude's body? Like
Forest Glen, bro. It's Forest Glen.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, you're asking for it, first of all. But I like this one because I believe, what is it? It's, isn't it like one of the spires from the fence or whatever is in his chest, and that's how he comes back and gets struck by lightning or something, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that, as dumb as it is to go there to destroy this dude's body even more, I think it created like a cool intro. You know, you see his eyes open and all that, and then it just goes from there again.
So this one, actually, I said the Part 3 had the most nudity. This one has no nudity, although there is a sex scene in it. So they went from all out to none.
That's why this movie sucks.
Go ahead, Swell. Give me it, man.
No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I was just talking about the titties. But no, at some point, like, I know, like, it's a movie, but you're like, dude, like, why are you going? I know you're confronting your fears, but why are you going to visit this dude's grave on a fucking stormy night? And like the fucking lightning hits it and resurrects him. It's also the first time that Jason becomes like this fucking supernatural, like, monster fucking force instead of like an undead, like, you know, just whatever. But like he superhuman strength and like fucking just insane. And it's always fucking lightning because that's how he gets fucking resurrected and Jason goes to Manhattan.
But I mean, that's kind of goes back to the monster lore, though. I mean, Frankenstein's monster was resurrected by lightning, so I guess they're kind of play tribute. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I mean, that was kind of like in the playbook. If you need a monster to come back, you use that. So I can see why they did it.
Do you know that there's a lake? There's a lake in Minnesota, Crystal Lake, Minnesota, that has like a 7-foot like Jason Voorhees statue at the bottom of the lake. So if like you're diving in the lake. Like,
I heard of this. Yes, I've heard of this. I would love to go see it, dive and see it. Be something I want to see.
Like I get this movie, it's cool, but like, yeah, at some point you're like, dude, stop fucking going back to Camp Crystal Lake or Camp Blood. Stop visiting his grave to overcome your fears. Just fucking take psychiatric drugs like the rest of us and don't even worry about it.
But like I said, guys, like the last two movies were okay. Like they were treading on new water. I think they're rinsing and repeating, and they're going right back to it. And they're spending, their budgets are like $3 million, and they're fucking making like 5 times their budget. So if it's working, I guess just keep going with it, right?
I mean, you're not wrong. Like you milk the cow till the cow's dry, and that's what they did.
Yeah, this one isn't one of my favorite ones. I do like the part where he gets resurrected, and I love the guy who is digging him back up. That's why I included that clip in terms of sound bites. Also, for this whole series, it was kind of hard getting like decent sound bites that were funny.
I can see that.
There's like a lot of screaming. I was gonna do cha, but I thought I'll just try to mix it up. But yeah, this one to me, it's not one of my favorites. But the next one we go into is a guilty pleasure of mine.
There was this boy named Jason Voorhees, drowned in Crystal Lake about 30 years ago. None of the counselors heard him. A bunch of years went by. Everyone forgot about it. And that's when the murder started to happen.
Oh, that was for part 8, which I thought was next, but I picked the wrong button. So we'll go into 6 here.
I hate this place. He's making me do things that I don't want to do. I'm seeing things. I could have killed somebody. How could I have done that?
Christina, when you're highly emotional, you do almost anything, you see. It just proves my point.
Yeah, so this is from Friday the 13th, part 7, The New Blood, directed by John Carl Buechler, who also directed the classic Troll. Swole.
You love Troll.
He did Ghoulies 2, The Dungeon Master. Master.
I love Ghoulies.
Yes, he also did special effects on Reanimator, Ghoulies, Demonic Toys, Halloween 4. So I don't know if he did the one with the pink mask. He also did Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
The one where Jason fights where Freddy fights the karate dude.
Yes, so I could see a lot of that similarities in this movie and that one. This one, like the next two, are like my guilty favorite. Some of my favorites of this series.
Don't get me started about 8 yet. Let's get into it.
But this one stars Carrie Kissler, Jennifer Banco, John Ortine, and Kane Hodder. This is Kane Hodder's first appearance as Jason, which I love.
The
awesome
best
guy.
Jason.
Yes, by far. Budget of $2.8 million and a box office of $19 million. So the last two movies were profitable, but made less than $20 million. So it looks like the profit margin is kind of going down just slightly. I like this one. I love the fact, this one shows Jason, I think, in with his mask off more. I love that they kind of threw a paranormal aspect into it, where the chick's like psychic and she
uses like telekinesis.
Yeah, and I mean, like Jason's already kind of got that paranormal stuff going to him. He already has what people think he fucking teleports already, because he randomly appears everywhere. And they kind of add into it the part where she's like trying to squeeze his brain together and all the gook's coming out, and then he just takes off his mask and screams at her. Like to me, I really liked that as a kid, because like, holy shit, Jason looks fucked up. That's one of the reasons it brought me back to my memories as a kid, and it was kind of a fun to watch for me. What about you, Nam?
Yeah, this one stands out. This is the one with, like you said, where she's making the dock move and all that at the end or whatever. like that part, like you're like, how's she gonna get rid of him or whatever? And then she's got him out there, and that happens, and I believe the dad jumps out of the water, right?
Yeah,
doesn't that happen? And to me, that's what stands out as that scene for sure.
What about you, Swell?
It's like the telekinesis stuff is funny. Like that's how Jason comes back, right? Like she's fucking thinking about her dad, and she accidentally fucking resurrects a mass murderer.
It's just so random.
It's so random. It's funny, but that's what these movies are. Like they're goofy and stupid, but I love them.
So two funny stories about this movie. Going behind the scenes. So Kane Hodder, his dressing room was a quarter mile down on a dirt road from the set. One day at 2 a.m, he decided to walk down it still in his Jason costume. He went through the woods on his path to his dressing room, and he saw somebody walking towards him. And as the guy approached him and asked him, was he in the movie? He just didn't reply to fuck with them. The guy thought he was stupid and continued to ask. And then he basically kind of fake lunged at him, and the guy took off running. So he pissed his pants. So King Hodder just scares the shit out of some dude. And they found out it was the local sheriff.
That's
They
awesome.
scared. Secondly, his mom used to come to the set a lot, and the crew actually made her a custom Jason's mom crew member's jacket. And he
Nice.
said she wore it everywhere. And she lived in Nevada. Even when it was 90 degrees out, she would wear it to the store because she was so proud of him, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I kind of like this one. It's just fucking the way it's just random how you randomly resurrect somebody thinking about your dad.
Your dad.
That's the part that makes me laugh. And King Hodder did the infamous bashing of the camper in the sleeping bag. This is the first time he did it, where he grabbed them and smashed them against the tree. He really had trouble doing it because they put a bunch of weight in there. And the part where he kicks it is actually really him kicking the fucking bag because he was so pissed that he couldn't get it right, which I thought was pretty funny. Now he says that's like his best, his favorite gimmick from the movies. King Hodder's an awesome dude. I don't know, have you guys ever met him? Nam, have you ever met King Hodder?
I have not. No.
What about you, Swole?
No, I never met King Hodder. I know he does a bunch of cons.
Yeah, so he did Day of the Dead here in, I think it was in Aurora a few years ago. He's coming back again this year. But me, my brother, and my wife and my brother's girlfriend at the time went up there, and he was like the nicest dude. He talks to you like the whole time you're there, like, and I'm not saying like you're just in line to get an autograph. He's talking to you like outside of line while he's signing pictures and talking to people. But he goes through his whole line, talks to you. You have the option of being choked by him for his picture, which I think is hilarious. My brother has done it.
That's
like
cool.
he actually dropped the bombshell on us that they were doing the Friday the 13th the video game. He told us about it. He's like, yeah, I'm already went in for screening. They basically are modeling me. He goes as Jason. So that was his reprisal of Jason, which I thought was pretty cool. Awesome dude. Totally awesome dude.
That's cool.
Yeah. But since we already spoiled it with the sound clip, I'm not going to play it again. But let's get into our next one, gentlemen. So this is Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. It was released in 1989. So that's in the 80s. There was a Friday the 13th film released all but 2 years in the 80s, which I think is crazy. This was directed by Rob Hedden, who also did Clock Stoppers, The Condemned, and Box Borders. It stars Jensen Daggett, Kane Hodder again as Jason, and Todd Platt-Scott. The movie had a budget of $5 million and a gross of 14. So I know you've been dying to talk about this one.
Oh,
let's hear it, my friend.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite movie in the series. I remember I was in Seattle over the summer, and I sent Nam a picture because we were at the Pop Culture Museum, and it was the T-shirt with this movie poster on it. And this movie is so fucking over the top. It's goofy, right? Jason is fucking resurrected by a fucking lightning bolt again in the lake, right? And he climbs aboard this fucking cruise ship that's on its fucking senior trip from Crystal Lake to Manhattan to go to New York City. And all the fucking chaos of this movie for 45 minutes takes place on a fucking cruise ship. And you have the rocker girl that's filming a fucking heavy metal music video in the fucking boiler room of the boat. You have the disco, you have everything going on, right? And then they fucking get to New York City. And then you just unleash Jason in Manhattan. He boxes a fucking guy on the roof and he gets his fucking head knocked off. He watches 2 heroin junkies shoot up heroin in an alley and try to fucking inject it into what's her name? What was her name?
I forget.
Rennie?
Yeah, Rennie. Yeah, Rennie, I think her name was.
And then Jason has this fucking moral moment where he beats the shit or he kills the fucking heroin junkies just to get the girl, right? He gets fucking trapped in the fucking subway with the water pouring down on him. It's just fucking awesome. It's so over the top. It's goofy. You have the overbearing uncle that didn't even want her on the fucking boat trip. And it is pure 80s fucking fantastic, terrible horror movie, and I love it.
What about you, Nam?
I mean, he summed that up absolutely perfectly. Like everything he said is accurate on that. Just him just hitching a ride on the back of that boat is like hilarious. And then it just goes from there. Like everything he mentioned, I saw the dance club scene comment popped up. Like there's just so much random shit in this one that you have to appreciate. And then at the end, it's a thing of acid that gets him, right?
Yeah, in the
Like,
sewers, right?
In the
Yeah,
sewers.
so like it just keeps going. Like you're on like, how's he end up on this boat? He's killing all these people on this boat. Then he ends up in the city. Like the boxing in the head.
The boxing.
Like,
and if the dude had a little bit more stamina, like if he would have fucking hit him one more time, he would have fallen off the building. But he was fucking gassed from beating up Jason, and Jason just looks at him and he just fucking knocks his head off.
So, two parts of this movie that I really love. That one, the boxing on top of the building, is always iconic. I remember watching it as a kid because you're like, holy shit, he's beating the shit out of Jason. And that was all. The guy was really hitting Kane Hodder. He had padding underneath his costume. So he told him, hit me as hard as you can, make it look real. And the guy went all out, which I thought was crazy and awesome. And then it's like one of my favorite parts. And then when his head flies off, it's funny. The other part is when he's walking through Times Square and those cholos are listening to music and he just kicks the shit out of their stereo. And they pull out their knife, and then he puts up his mask, and then they just run away. That part makes me laugh all the time because it's like Jason's like, fuck this music, and just like kicks the shit out of their stereo.
Or his fucking face on the billboard.
Yeah.
Like it's so goofy. It's so goofy, but it's so fun. And to me, this was like, if you're asking me, this is the last real great Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, at least of coming up next, in a few. But we complain about the boat, but Rob Hedden, who wrote this, he wanted it to be set in New York. He had written times at places at Madison Square Garden, the Brooklyn Bridge, Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and Paramount told him, "Yo, you want all these places? We don't got a budget for that." So that's why he had to write the boat in. So he goes, I know fans give me shit every time that it's not based in New York, and you know what? I have to agree with them. So,
oh no, the movie posters, like the movie poster here that we have is a visual aid of Jason overlooking the New York City skyline, and then the other movie poster, like the alternate fucking marketing for this was the iconic I Love New York t-shirts, but it was with fucking Jason's mask on it, and it was just brilliant.
Yes, definitely brilliant. I love this movie. It's so bad it's good, Lami. I know you talked about this one to me is the one that this is my favorite one of all. I mean, it's so ridiculous. That's why
I drafted it on the Drafty Pod last week on It's Getting Drafty in Here.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of my favorites. But let's get into our next one that's coming up. Jesus, this one.
Do we have to?
I'm going to say 2 words to you, Mr. Duke, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Okay.
You ready?
Shoot.
Jason Voorhees.
Well, that makes me think of a little girl in a pink dress sticking a hot dog through a donut.
Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, released in 1993, directed by Adam Marcus, who also wrote the 2013 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, starring John D. LeMay, Carrie Keegan, Stephen Williams, and Kane Hodder again as Jason, and this will be the second to last time he fulfills that role. The movie had a budget of $3 million and made $15 million at the box office. Nam, tell me about Jason Goes to Hell.
So I was just kind of looking some stuff up on this one because I was not really. I think the only time I've seen this was with one of my rewatches a few years ago, and this is the one where he's trying to. Isn't he going after somebody in his family or something, right? You got to walk me through this one.
Yeah, so this is the one where he is basically he's not physically there, he possesses people.
Yeah.
And like the guy, so the one part of this movie, it's a part where the guy fucking eats his heart. And even as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Okay, I do remember that now.
I never understood, like, it just made no sense to me, that part. I don't know what they were trying to do with this movie. They're just saying this is it. They're trying to get over with. You know, they kind of made it seem like Jason is basically he's possessing people to you know what? Have you ever seen The Exorcist 3 now?
I have not.
Okay, so this kind of follows The Exorcist 3 kind of like plot. In The Exorcist 3, there's a serial killer who makes a deal with the devil. He dies, and he's continuing to kill people even though he's dead. And the way he's doing it is he's possessing people with dementia or people who are lost. He takes them over and kills them the way he killed them. That's kind of what Jason is doing in this movie. And The Exorcist 3 is way better than this because like the heart eating is always the part that throws me off. This also set up the big showdown between Freddy and Jason that didn't happen for 20 years. For not 20, almost 20 years, with Freddy coming out and grabbing the mask. And the cool part about that scene is Kane Hodder was actually the person in Freddy's glove and sweater that grabs the mask. So he is technically the only person ever to play Freddy Krueger and Jason in any series, which I thought is pretty awesome. Swell, what do you think about this movie?
I mean, honestly, Yump, the fan service that you just mentioned with the Freddy's glove coming out and grabbing Jason's mask is the only like decent thing about this movie. Like, it involves the fucking FBI and an ambush and like trying to set Jason up, and then he's brought back to the morgue in parts with his still beating heart, and it's just fucking it's bad. It's not even bad fun. It's just bad.
Yeah, and you know, it's pretty horrible because this movie not only is bad, but Kane Hodder had an accident on this film where I think a significant big part of his body was burned. You know, and like they had him mess with fire in this movie too, which is like the PTSD to me.
Yeah.
Toby Hooper was originally supposed to direct this movie. I think it would have been turned out a ton better with Toby Hooper directing it. Maybe Steven Spielberg would direct it too. I don't know.
Well,
but
I knew you were gonna say that.
but I think it would have been a lot better because I think he had a little more cachet for what this take a franchise in a different light, especially if it's ending. Because I do like his Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel after he continued that story. But it's just a really bad movie. There's the only like high point to me was the part where they have the Necromonicon from Evil Dead in it. And there's a story behind that. Sam Raimi had that prop on loan from the person that created it. And when it got shown in the film, he actually called them and said, "Hey, I'm sorry." And the guy's like, "I'm never loaning out another prop without getting paid first," because he didn't get paid for it. But that made my day when I saw that in the rewatch. Besides that, this movie is like, as you would say, cheeks. It's very bad.
It's cheeks.
Cool poster though.
Yeah, poster's okay.
But yeah, I did not like this movie at all. Yeah. Nam, I'm pretty sure you won't like it on the rewatch, man.
Yeah. I'll still give it a go.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to, but this was a tough one for me to get through completely. But let's get into Swole's favorite.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
2002 Jason X, directed by Jim Isaacs, who was known for special effects on Return of the Jedi, Gremlins, Arachnophobia, The Kiss, which is a great horror movie from the 80s you guys need to check out. And Look Who's Talking Too. This movie starred Lex Doing, Jeff Gittes, Peter Manish, and Kane Hodder in his final time playing Jason in a featured film. Swole, tell me why you hate this movie.
Well, the first thing that I hate about this movie is the camera work, right? Like if you watch this movie, the I don't know if it's whatever, but the camera work is so early 90s. Like it's ridiculous. It looks bad. It looks cheap. It takes place in the year 2455.
Perfectly reasonable.
435 years later, after Jason goes to hell, 435. He's cryogenically frozen and sent into space. The camera work is terrible. The movie is awful.
Listen, bro, if Leprechaun can go to space, why can't Jason?
I mean, I guess, but he went to space not in the year 2455.
I don't know. Leprechaun, he was like fucking with some space princess. Dude, the part of this movie is just so random to me because it's really bad, and I know it tries to go on the technology aspect of it. Like, they have a fucking fighting android that tries to whip his ass. They have the whole virtual reality where he thinks he's actually like killing somebody, but he isn't. It's just, it does have one of the coolest kills though when he puts the girl's face in the Freon and it breaks off. That was kind of cool.
Like the Crystal Lake Research Facility, like they just built this fucking research facility where on the scene of these old murders.
Go ahead, Nam.
I've got a hot take. For all of the reasons that Justin has just given as to why this is a terrible movie, I say those exact reasons are why this is one of the best of the series. Because it's just, I don't know, it's awesome. And I know I'm in the minority because as soon as you guys pulled the clip up for this one, the other side of the couch said, I hate this movie. So I'm sure I'm probably the only one, but I look at this as similar to like the Takes Manhattan. Like, it's just so literally out of this world, ridiculous.
Don't ever compare the cinematic
saying.
masterpiece of Jason Takes Manhattan to Jason X.
They both have equal parts awesomeness. Sorry.
Oh, all right.
I don't hate this movie now. I think this movie's funny because it's funny. It's so bad it's funny. Like, I don't think it's like, I'll watch this movie if it's on TV. Like, Jason Goes to Hell, if it's on TV, I'm turning that shit off. I think it has hilarious parts in it. I just think it's just so bad it's good. I do like the fact that David Cronenberg's in this movie. David Cronenberg, if you guys don't know, he directed Scanners, and he's also in Nightbreed. Great director. He was just in this movie because the director owed him a favor, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get killed by Jason." So he's one of the random people that gets killed by Jason in this movie. So I thought that was kind of cool. But is it like great? But I'll tell you this: this movie's better than Leprechaun in Space, because Leprechaun in Space was horrible.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
So it's got that going for it.
All right. I mean, I digress.
And as much
That's
as you
not
give it,
cause.
as much shit as you give this, this movie did not make a ton in terms of theatrics, because I don't have the numbers here.
It was a budget of 11 to 14 million, and the box office is 17.
Yeah, so it made it that way, but it's the one of the most successful Friday the 13th series due to DVD sales.
Oh.
DVDs.
I remember the DVD. The DVD case wasn't a normal DVD case. It was one where you had to pop the black tab and unfold it. It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
because it was a New Line. It was a New Line Cinema movie, I think.
Yeah, it had that going for it, man. So I gotta be with Nama. So I don't think this is that as bad as Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
Or even 3D. I think this is probably like in my top 5.
Wow.
What's wrong with that?
Oh no, hey man, everyone likes what they like, man. We don't shame here for what you like.
Yeah. So it's just me. I know Tony doesn't like either. He says this movie is cheeks.
No, I think he was talking about Jason Goes to Hell because that comment was a while ago.
Oh, okay. But gentlemen, let's get into our final movie.
You're the last one. I've killed all the others. It'll be easier for you than it was for Jason.
Why this?
You need to be punished for what you did to him.
I didn't do anything.
You let him drown. Jason was my son.
I didn't do anything.
Gentlemen, we officially reached reboot area, and we are in Friday the 13th, released in 2009. Directed by Marcus Nispel, who also did the reboot of the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the reboot of 2004 TV movie Frankenstein, and hell, another reboot of 2011's Conan the Barbarian. This movie stars Jared Padalecki, Amanda Rigetti, and Derek Mears as Jason. This movie had a budget of 19 million and a box office of 91 million. So this movie made bank. Now, tell me about this one.
I should have stopped with the last one because you can't top perfection. No, but honestly, this one, like, to me, it's just a reboot. You know, like, I love all of these reboots for the most part because it's kind of just bringing it back a little with its own more modern flair. And I enjoyed this one. Didn't he have? Wasn't he living in was it like a tunnel or like a basement kind of?
Yeah, so this movie actually I'm sorry, I'm gonna go before you as well, but this is actually one of my a reboot to me that's done correctly in terms of horror. Not better. I mean, Friday the 13th has movies that are not masterpieces, but I think this is actually done correctly because this explains a lot of stuff that, kind of the lore of the Jason character. Like you just mentioned, he's living in a tunnel. Like that's how he gets around so quickly in the woods is through the tunnels. So it makes it seem like he's teleporting. So it kind of they try to throw that in there. I like the fact that it's more darker in terms of the other ones. The other ones had a lot of comedic things. This one didn't really have that, and it's brutal in terms of kills and whatnot. It goes back to its roots. That's one thing I liked about this movie. I thought it was a very well done reboot, and it's not bad. It's not the best movie, don't get me wrong, but it's also not a bad reboot. What about you, Swell?
So in terms of like the Parthenon of reboots, this is the top of the reboot like chain for me. I like this more than the 2018 version of Halloween, and I like this a shit ton more than whatever year the Jackie Earl Haley Nightmare on Elm Street piece of shit came out. But I love how intense the opening is, right? Like these fucking guys, this group of kids looking for weed in the Camp Crystal Lake, and they find it. They're doing their thing. They're waiting for morning to go farm it or whatever. And the one couple goes off to check out Jason's house or in the tunnels or whatever. The one couple goes to fuck in the woods in the tent, right? And the one stoner dude is listening to his headphones, and he's got fucking Night Ranger motoring in his fucking iPod. And he's looking for weed with these glow sticks, and he's like, motoring. And then he looks up, and fucking Jason is there. And he chases him through. He puts the one hot girl with the massive cans in a fucking sleeping bag and tries to roast her over an open fire. And then all of a sudden, fucking credits, right? That was the intro for fucking Friday the 13th, and you were hooked, right? And like, it was when the girl that he kidnaps that reminds him of his mom or whatever, she's stuck in like this fucking in the underground tunnels in like this like basement or like whatever. And there's all these artifacts of people that he killed, right? And one of the artifacts is a fucking wheelchair. So the opening night that this movie came out, right? I'm in the theater, it's packed. I'm with my buddies, and I see the wheelchair, and I say pretty loudly in the theater, and I'm like, well, Jason doesn't discriminate against those with special needs. And the whole fucking theater just started cracking up when they saw the wheelchair. And like, this is just an example of a reboot done really, really well. You didn't need to go into the whole Pamela Voorhees thing. You did, but Jason wasn't waiting around for the sequel.
No, and also, I mean, he killed somebody in a wheelchair, I think in part 2.
In part 2, but
Yeah.
this was like prominent. The wheelchair was there, and Marcus Nispel, like, he wanted these things to be intense, and he did the Texas Chainsaw really intensely, and it was like they're really good on how they should be done.
Yeah, actually, I don't mind the 2003's Texas Chainsaw. I don't think it's nothing's gonna sense to hold the candle to the original, but
No, but like
I thought it was well done.
As time goes on, more and more people love that Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, and it has a little bit more like love or like longevity than the other ones do. Like I honestly like I liked 2018's Halloween when it came out, and now I could give a shit because the sequels that followed it killed it for me.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of want to ask you now. You said you like reboots. Would you be willing to watch another one of these get rebooted? And if so, who would want to direct it if you had anybody in mind?
I wouldn't have anybody in mind to direct it, but I mean, I'll watch any reboot. Like for me, with my horror movies, the the worse the better the movie is to me. Like, I don't know, like your Halloween that Justin loves so much. Like, I didn't mind that. I like bad movies, so
No, and like I don't dislike the 2018 Halloween movie. I think the first one was done really, really well and it was promising, but like the two sequels that followed it were what killed it for me. I also think that like, do we really need to like change the way that we look on the timeline of, couldn't the 2018 Halloween just have been like a movie on its own instead of retelling the path that the other movies went? Like it totally took Halloween 2 out of the lore of the trilogy of the series.
They try to redo it in Halloween Kills, and it was done horribly.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I think I get what you're saying in terms of standalone. With these characters, like Michael Myers, I'm kind of like had my fill with him right now. I would love to do him to continue with the Silver Shamrock storyline, but I digress. For Jason, though, I actually like this film. If they wanted to bring this director back for another one, I wouldn't mind. But if they want to do another complete reboot, person that I really want to see put his spin on American horror in his own way is Guillermo del Toro. I would love him to do a Jason Voorhees. I think it's right up his alley in terms of monsters. He does a really good well with monsters. I think he could tell a compelling story. He loves horror. He's a big fan of it. And I think he would take care of it and nurture it the way it should be.
Yeah, I love Guillermo del Toro, right? Like I think Guillermo del Toro for me though, like honestly is more fantasy like horror than it is sci-fi horror, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Wait, Jason's sci-fi horror? Is it because of Jason's X?
No, like I think his is more like mythical fucking creatures like Pan's Labyrinth and like shit like that, as
Mhm.
opposed to like the slasher genre. And I know that Jason is more than just a slasher because it's, he's dead and it is paranormal and it is fucking kind of zombie like or the undead like. I don't know. Like I don't know. I would have to watch. I don't.
The reason I say that is because it's not just the genre; it's more of his settings. He does a lot of dark settings, and I think this movie kind of like pushed that setting out more in like a dark atmosphere, more than the other ones. It's more darker and creepier, and it's also because the other ones were just trying to make slasher films. This one's more of a he is doing Frankenstein, Brian, which I'm really really looking forward to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just my take. So a little fun fact about the franchise, I said that they're all profitable. Every movie from Friday the 13th was profitable, and in total, including Freddy vs. Jason, which is the most profitable, 114 million. The franchise of Friday the 13th made $466 million on a budget of 78 million. So it's like what, 4-1?
Yep.
4 times, 5-1. So I mean, they made pretty good money doing this. But Nam, I know you're a big fan of these series. That's why we had to have you on for this. So what is your difference? Like, what's the main reason why you prefer Jason over any other horror character or person in horror?
honestly, just growing up, like I watched more of these than Halloween. My sister was always big. What's it called? Nightmare on Elm Street. She was always big into Jason or Freddy. I leaned Jason, and our house was just not really a Michael Myers house. Really, not to say that I disliked him, but I just prefer the Friday the 13th. I don't know. I feel like there's just so many different unique aspects, like we've mentioned, that I prefer this franchise more.
No, man. Yeah,
I get it completely, right? Like we all have our personal preference. I grew up like in a Michael Myers like appreciating house, but also my friends were all into like Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street. So like I don't think you can go wrong with any of them.
No, I know, and I think that's like kind of what we try to do here. Is like if everybody has their own sense of love for a certain type of movie, a certain type of character, and it's all different. That's why we like discussing them.
Super cool.
Yeah, but Nam, thank you so much for coming on, my man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
We need to have Amy on instead of you next time because she's cooler.
I need Amy to
fine.
tell me about Jason X.
Yeah. No, it's not going to go as good as you think.
No, but Nam, thank you so much. You're one of our biggest supporters. Awesome dude. You know, We gotta hang soon.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Nam.
All right, my friend. You have
All
a
right.
good night.
I love
All right,
you.
you too. I love you too.
Bye.
Never again. I'll never do that again.
I'm gonna
See you
screen
guys.
clip that.
It's recorded.
Can someone screen clip that for me?
No, shouldn't have said it. Take it back. All right. Have a good night.
All right. Take it easy, down.
Thanks, Nam.
All right, man. The hot dog king. He's the man.
He is the man.
But Swole, we went through 11 movies, man, in an hour and a half. That's not bad.
That's
An
not
hour
bad.
20.
I mean, it's like one whole Friday the 13th movie.
Yes. But let's get into our regular segment, my friend, of news and rumors.
News and rumors. All right. So, Yump, we didn't really have a pregame conversation about this, so I'm winging it, but I got a couple things.
Mhm.
Principal photography is done on the Joker 2 Folie Deux with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. What are you expecting from a follow-up to a very non-traditional DC movie?
For this movie, and the reason I wanted to I didn't discuss with you is because I kind of want to see how we do winging it.
Yeah.
But for this movie, I don't really have high expectations for the movie. I'm not a big musical person, musical fan. I do like that it's doing something different in terms of where it's taking the franchise, and it's a different, way of telling the story, which I will watch. It's just not my jam, but I don't really have too high expectations for it. I think I don't know how Lady Gaga is going to do as Harley Quinn. Everybody's so used to Margot Robbie as her, and I think Margot Robbie is awesome as Harley Quinn.
I do too. I do think though that when I saw A Star Is Born, Lady Gaga can act, and I think
it has nothing to do with her acting. I think she can act, and I think she can sing. It's just there's certain roles that are for certain people, and I don't know how it's kind of like George Clooney. George Clooney's a great actor, but he was not the greatest Batman. I mean,
I disagree.
But you know what I mean. Like,
no, I get you.
There's certain roles for certain people. It just, sometimes it just doesn't work out. I'm hoping it does. I will see it because I was a fan of the first one.
That was my next question. Was how did you feel? Because I don't think we've ever talked about it. How did you feel about the first Joker?
That one, the first Joker actually hit me really, really hard in terms personally because the aspect that me being, talking kind of like for real here, putting pulling the curtain back a little bit. I used to work in the field of psychology and help mental health patients and people out with disabilities as a caseworker for a few years. And the fact that he's losing funding for his disability really, really hit home because there's a lot of things that really happen like that in real life. It's just a very sad telling of it, and you sympathize with the Joker, which I think that's why I think Joaquin Phoenix is such a great actor because you sympathize with somebody that's normally just mad for no reason. They never really get into his backstory, which is what they did here, but it's just you sympathize with a person that's always been the villain, and you kind of understand why he is doing what he's doing.
I agree. I agree completely. I think that movie was really, really well done. To me, it felt like a Martin Scorsese movie almost, right? Like very gritty, very violent, very Taxi Driver like. But
I got that Taxi Driver from too.
Big fan of that. So I'm glad that we talked about Joker 2 now that it's almost done being shot. I want to switch gears a little bit. I have another one, unless you have something for news and rumors too.
No, go ahead, my friend.
So we're about 9 days out of the next MCU movie being released, The Marvels. The early reviews or the early takes on it are not favorable. Is Marvel fatigue or comic book movie superhero fatigue real? And is this going to be the weakest entrance as a Marvel movie that's ever been released?
So I don't think the fatigue is real. I think there's some sense of it, but I put the Marvel universe with the Star Wars universe. You make when people are going to watch it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know how they're going to take to it like they did Star Wars, because every Star Wars movie pretty much makes money, but people are going to go see it. This one, I understand why it's not going to make a lot of money. Miss Marvel a lot of people don't like the original Miss Marvel movie a Captain Marvel movie that was released with I can't. Her name is escaping me.
Brie
but,
Larson.
Brie Larson.
Yeah.
For some reason, a lot of people. I actually like that movie, and the reason I like that movie is because of the music, the soundtrack in that movie.
Well, and that's what gets me about this trailer. They remixed and redid "Body Movin'" by the Beastie Boys for the trailer from the I think it's the Hello Nasty album, and
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite like Beastie Boys tracks. But like the movie or the trailer just seems so flippin' lackluster.
Yeah, and I tried to get into the show on Disney Plus. I think
Yeah.
it Miss Marvel. I think
Miss
it is.
Marvel or
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think Miss Marvel. I tried to get into it. I just couldn't. There was funny parts in it, but I just could not consistently watch it. I didn't like the storyline of it. And I really tried. Like I tried several times, just couldn't do it. But I don't think the fatigue is there because Loki season 2 is out, and I think it's been pretty good.
Well, and I've heard Loki is some of the best things that like Marvel has written in a long time. I just think the box office returns are not good.
No, but I think once see right now Marvel's kind of in a interesting place because of the Jonathan Majors issue.
Well, that was another thing that happened over the weekend too, where his girlfriend was arrested for like hitting him. Like I don't know, like I don't even want to get into like that on the show.
Yeah, but I'm just
like
saying
there's
that
so many fucking strands of that controversy where it's like what's really going on.
Yeah, that I don't it's all a shit show. If he did something, he needs to get fucking fired. I'm a big proponent of firing people if they did domestic violence and that shit.
Agreed.
Like Ezra Miller, I think should be fucking kicked out as the Flash. I've been saying that. I'll say that publicly. I don't care. But in terms of that, we don't know what really happened in this scenario. If he did something, kick his ass out. But they're still facing that issue, and Marvel's handling this a lot better than DC is handling the Ezra Miller movie issues.
Agreed.
That hopefully James Gunn takes care of those issues as well. But I digress. I like they're in an interesting place right now where they went, and then now I've been hearing a lot of rumors since we're talking about Marvel, is that they're trying to get Robert Downey Jr. to come back, put back on that jersey as Iron Man in an alternate universe.
I think like I don't know. I think that could very well reinvigorate some life back into the MCU.
And it all depends on if Robert Downey wants to come back, because Robert Downey's made $80 million off the last movie because he took a piece of the cut of the profits. But it depends. He's even talked about it. I think he went on. I don't listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, but somebody sent me a clip of it where he said, "If I put the jersey back on, meaning if I come back as will people accept it?" And Joe Rogan basically told him people would love it. And when that clip was released, a lot of people were like, they would love him to come back in some way. Maybe in this new Spider-Man series, alternate, because they're already messing around with the multi-dimensions.
The multiverse, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have Marvel fatigue. Then again, I didn't read them a lot of comic books as a kid. So I watch the movie and then I read about it. So that's just me. But I can see why people are doing, like, as long as it's a good, interesting story like the Batman. The Batman is like a good, interesting story, a new way to tell a story. As long as it's like that, I don't care.
I still got to see that.
Yeah, you saw it like 40 times. But that's just my reasoning.
No, I think that's great. I think that's kind of all I have in terms of news and rumors this week. I think that was a good way for us to fucking wing news and rumors this week.
Yeah, clean the palate.
Yeah. It also was a good segue into coming soon, because we talked about this pre-show.
Yes. So you want to give everybody what's coming soon?
Yeah. So we come back in 2 weeks, Yump?
Let's shoot for 3 because I have to get my computer cleaned.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks, and we're gonna dive into phase 1 of the MCU and talk about the movies that made the MCU and got this thing up and running. So, and then we might not do MCU after MCU after MCU episode, but we're gonna at least start talking about them and get the MCU going.
Yeah. So this has been something that me and Soul have had on our ledger in our show notes as possible shows for a long time since we first started the show. So I think it's kind of a nice little segue to get like a breather to something different that we usually don't talk about. So I am looking forward to this. We might have a special guest for this one, depending if the person's willing to help us out in that one.
Yep.
Because it is time consuming watching these movies, but I'm really, really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Yep. And before we get to Swole's final thought, shout out to head bump in charge on his beautiful wife Sarah for having an awesome party on Saturday, Halloween party. He had the house all dialed up for Halloween. Me and my wife had an awesome time. I know Swole, you and your wife were there. All the Penguins are there. We had a pretty good time. Fun night. You know, I was dressed up as Bigfoot, like Swole said. And so was Fred Flintstone. Which
I was Fred Flintstone. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
We love the bums.
Yes, the bums are awesome. And also, if you guys haven't noticed, we have a new shirt out made by the one and only Swole, which is
the
Yumper and Swole Pornhub logo.
Yumper and Svo Hub.
Swole Hub logo. And we're not those type of movies. Buy it out at statisticpenguin.bigcartel.com. Check it out. Shout out to Swole for designing that, which is getting a lot of traction in terms of people who see us wear it. They laugh.
It's pretty funny.
But just want to say thank you to all the guys and everybody who's supported our show, watches it, likes, comments, interacts with us, gives us ideas, discuss film with us. We really appreciate it. I know we've been a little bit inconsistent with shows, but due to me being mostly because I was sick. But you know, 31 Days of Horror is done. Once the computer gets its usual flushing, then we can go back into making good content for you guys. So Brian said, you know what, Brian? I was just about to plug your show.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, but check out tomorrow. There's a Getting Drafty in Here Candy Draft on the Penguin channel. So check that out tomorrow. I believe you're starting at 8:00, Brian. Had some good guests on that one. So we're gonna finish up the Halloween series with that. And Swole, when is the next Eugene and Tallahassee?
Yeah, Eugene and Tallahassee will be back next week. We took a bye week this week just because of work schedules and stuff like that. The college football playoff was announced. We have our top 4 teams in college football playoff. That's with my boy Bruhan Luke, which will kind of take me into my final thought. We have cool shit going on here. We have Drafty Pod, which always has good topics. We have the hookup on music. We have Yumper and Svo. We have Eugenia Tallahassee with our boy Bruhan Luke. We also have fucking plethora of writers writing blogs for us. We have Marge. We have Roxy. We have Alexis. And I want to welcome to the family graphic designer, Leatherface impersonator, comic book guy. CPG is going to be writing some blogs for the Sadistic Penguin Studios, and we're very, very happy to have him in the fold with us. We put out stuff because it's fun. We don't give a fuck about views. We don't give a shit about anything else. We just like to have fun with our friends. And on that note, we love all our friends, and we'll see you guys in 3 weeks. Deuces.
Take it easy, guys.